This is for all my just as gooders out there. Hey guys, Akimbo Chris, back out here on the range again today with Crusader Armory TV. And today guys, we're gonna be doing another build breakdown. But today we're gonna be doing it on a rifle that more than likely all you guys out there, if you're a gun enthusiast, has at least one of in your collection. Today we're gonna be taking a look at my 10.5-inch PSA budget build. I bought this gun about 4 years ago, primarily just to use it as a range rifle to go out on the range and get some training in with. But over the last 4 years, this thing has really transformed. I've personalized it a lot, customized it, pretty much changed out all the internals on the rifle, and have really made it more into a capable firearm than it was when I bought it from the factory. I have probably a couple thousand rounds to this thing over the last 3 to 4 years, and it's served me very well, especially with the small upgrades that I've made to it. But today I really do want to just do a build breakdown on this rifle, kind of go through why I selected all the pieces I selected for it, and kind of show you guys what the possible capability is of a PSA rifle after you upgrade a lot of the parts and set it up kind of similar to the way I have this one set up. I really want to make this video because of the current climate right now. As you guys know, we've got a conflict in Iran. I'm sure there's a lot of American citizens out there with all these rumors of sleeper cells in the United States, possible terrorist attacks and things like that. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who may be looking into buying their first AR-15, and I am 100% certain that there is a lot of you probably looking at a PSA rifle. So I figured what better time to do this build breakdown than right now when there's people out there buying PSA rifles or buying their first AR-15 because of the current climate, what's going on, and kind of just giving you guys a guide on how I would probably set up my first rifle if I was on a budget and bought something like the PSA 10.5-inch that I have here. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna be doing some drills with her. We're gonna be testing the overall capabilities and performance of this build and comparing it to some much more expensive options on the market. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right guys, so real quick, let's do a build breakdown and go through how I have this rifle set up. It is just a basic 10.5-inch AR-15 from PSA that came as your generic mil-spec rifle. However, I have made some internal upgrades on the gun to make it feel a lot more premium, shoot a little bit better, and just overall kind of tune the rifle to my liking. So that's kind of where we're going to start out as far as going through the upgrades, and the upgrades I made to it is what I've done to this rifle internally. First thing we did change out is going to be the bolt carrier group. I would recommend on any cheaper mil-spec rifle to change out the bolt carrier group whenever you get the chance. In my experience, these are usually the first things to fail on these cheaper AR-15s. Usually what I see is either the bolt face will break on them because the metallurgy is just not on par with some of the higher end bolt carrier groups. So usually you'll see this bolt face crack here, or what you generally see in most ARs is the gas rings will go out after a few thousand rounds. You're probably okay with the stock bolt carrier group up to about 4,000 or 5,000 rounds, but I would replace it as soon as you get the chance because it's just going to overall really improve the overall reliability and longevity of your firearm. It also makes the action a lot slicker. So if you can see here, we do have this WMD bolt carrier group, which kind of has that nickel boron finish on it, and this action is butter smooth. Generally with bolt carrier groups, I would say get you a micro best bolt carrier group, throw it in there, you're gonna be solid. Moving on down to the trigger, I do have a LaRoe 2-stage trigger in here. Generally, I think this is the AR-15's community's like go-to budget option for a decent trigger. LaRoe 2-stage, you cannot go wrong with it. You have a very defined wall and then a very clean light break. There's nothing wrong with a mil-spec trigger. This is probably more of an optional upgrade, but it will really enhance your experience with your AR-15. Now moving up here to the charging handle, I do have a Radian Raptor ambidextrous charging handle on this thing. In my opinion, for any AR-15, this is a must, because you never know what position you're gonna be in and need to charge this gun or clear a malfunction. It's just better to have those multiple points of contact where you can contact that bolt carrier group and clear the malfunction or charge the gun. So I would recommend definitely getting a Radiant Raptor or some type of ambidextrous charging handle, because it makes the gun just so much easier to charge. Don't even have to think about it. Next thing is the buffer system. So this is something I think a lot of people neglect. This will really enhance your overall experience with the firearm, especially if it's a mil-spec rifle. A lot of them come from the factory super overgassed. They just don't feel real comfortable to shoot, and a lot of times that can affect your overall performance with the firearm. So I would definitely recommend tuning your buffer system. We do have an Arma spec captured buffer in this gun, and it makes the action so much smoother. So the thing with a captured buffer opposed to your mil-spec gun, which just comes with a weight and a spring, is that the captured buffer is gonna make a lot less noise, and it is all one piece. It just really makes the firearm so much smoother. Generally, when you charge a mil-spec rifle, you'll get a really loud screech because of that spring that is inside the buffer system. However, you can tell with this one, it doesn't make a lot of noise at all, and it's super smooth. And this gun shoots super flat comparatively to how these things come out the box. So you can tune it with a buffer weight as well. You can get H2, H3, and kind of figure out what works best for you to make the firearm overall a little bit more comfortable to shoot. So that's kind of it for the internal. So now let's go over the attachments that I have on the PSA budget build, and we'll start out with the optic, because I think that's probably the most important thing. If you're buying your first AR-15, you're probably wondering, you know, what's a good optic for me to go for? I don't want something that's cheap. I want something that's gonna work. Well, the SIG Romeo 5 is probably almost always going to be your answer. This is probably one of the best, most reliable T2 style red dots on the market. And you can get these things for right around 120 bean. This is the Romeo 5 Gen 2, and this is their green dot variant, and these things just work. You could probably drag it behind your truck, throw it off a cliff, and I'd be almost willing to bet my paycheck this thing would still work, no problems. I do have that on top of a riser. This is just a generic Amazon riser, T2 style riser for this Romeo 5. And I know there's a lot of people out there who do not like risers. However, they do have their use cases. So for me, the reason I'm running a riser is because, as you can see, I do also have a lamb on this gun. And if I was to use the standard height 6-hour mount that comes with this optic, this would be obstructing my view. So if you have a gun kind of like this one and you're gonna have multiple things on your top rail, then you might wanna opt in for a riser, so that way you can make sure nothing is obstructing you from being able to see your target through your optic. Another reason you would wanna use a riser is for night vision use. So if you are planning to do any training under night vision, then risers will help substantially. It is very hard to get a sight picture and to get on your dot under tubes if you do not have a riser. This puts it at the perfect height where whenever you're wearing tubes, you can use it just the way you would use it without the tubes on. So if you're running night vision or you don't have a lot of rail space, risers, in my opinion, are definitely the way to go. And in my experience, they can even cut down on your ADS time. So your aim down sight time, your sight to acquire the target and hit it. Generally, my times are a lot lower when I stick a riser on a firearm. So speaking of the lamb, this is a Somo Gear PEC 15, and these run somewhere around 200 to 250 beans. These things work really well for the price. And for a long time, they were the only option in that 200 to 300 bean price range that was actually viable for a working lamb that would hold zero and have a really powerful laser on it. So this thing has a full power laser, and they seem to be pretty durable for most civilian use. Now for the flashlight, I would say this is another necessity. You want to be able to positively ID your target. Now this is the Streamlight HLX, and this has been one of the better budget options on the market for a very long time. They're pretty much bulletproof. They can withstand a lot of torture, and I've ran Streamlights on my handguns for years. They're super bright, and it comes with a really nice mount and a really good pressure pad. So I would say Streamlight is probably the bare minimal for any serious use firearm. The thing that I really like about the Streamlight HLX is that on this particular weapon, if I am C-clamping the rifle, then that button is in just the perfect position. I don't like to run pressure pads because you don't want to ND your light or your laser by accident, but this thing is in the perfect position where I can just barely tap that button and use it when I'm presenting the rifle. So as far as the muzzle device goes here, we do have a suppressor on this thing. If you do want to run a suppressor and you are on a budget, this is a very budget-friendly suppressor. This is the CMMG 036K, and these things run right around 500 beans. And this thing can do all the way up to 9mm size bullets. So it can do anything underneath 9mm caliber, which is 36 cal. So that includes 5.56, 223, 300 blackout, 308. This thing can withstand all those rounds, and it's full auto rated, and it's 500 beans. With the tax stamp, the $200 tax stamp being gone, these things are more affordable than they used to be. And if you're looking for a really budget-friendly suppressor that can fit on a variety of different guns, this is the 036K by CMMG. If you don't want to run a suppressor, I would recommend running a 3-prong flash hider or something of that nature, so that way you can still conceal your flash in low light situations. It's definitely not going to be as good as suppressor as far as flash reduction, but I've seen that they do help. As far as furniture on the firearm, we do have dye-free co-furniture, and I really do love this furniture. You have a much straighter grip with these grips here than you do with your standard AR-15 grip that comes on your AR-15 or whatnot, and I really do like that. It just fits my hand better, and I prefer the straighter grip over the more angled grip. Now, it's not the case for everybody, so it may not be the case for you, but I would at least recommend giving it a shot. They also have really good stippling on this thing, so you're going to be able to get a nice firm grip on there. And we also have the Tiger Claw up here that has that same stippling on it. These are ATF compliant, so you can run them on your pistols, and it essentially acts as a hand stop. So I really like dye-free co-furniture, and you guys can actually use code Crusader to get 10% off. And these are stupid cheap, guys. I'm pretty sure the grip is like 20 bucks or something like that. You can get the set for 40, and they come in all these really cool colorways such as multicam. I just am running a Warbull sling here. This is a Amazon sling. You can get these for about 20 bucks. I've tested multiple slings on Amazon, and so far I haven't found anything on par with this for the price. They do use your standard HK hooks, so if you do want to change out the hooks for whatever reason, then you can do that as well. Last but not least, we do have a cheek riser. A lot of people ask me about this, so I do want to just include it real quick. This is a Lynx Defense cheek riser, and it essentially just goes on the back of your stock, your brace, or whatever you put it on to help get a better cheek weld to the stock brace or whatever you have. However, I don't really use it for that. The reason I use it is because if you guys have a beard and you're a gun guy, you know whenever you go to adjust the stock when you're shooting, a lot of times you'll get your beard hair caught up in it, and this really helps prevent getting beard hair caught up in my brace, because it hurts, and I don't like pulling it, and I don't like pulling it out. So I installed this Lynx Defense cheek riser, and they are a North Carolina company as well. Super small company, but they make bags, cheek risers, a whole bunch of different stuff for firearms, so go check them out. Links to all this stuff will be in the pinned comment, so please check that out if you're interested in any of these items. Overall, that's my PSA budget build, and this is kind of what I would build out if I was building my first rifle all over again, but I was on a budget and wanted something that was a little bit more capable than just a standard AR with flip-up sights. This will substantially increase your capability. Now you can use it for night vision. Now you have a suppressor. Now the gun overall is going to function a little bit better, and you're really adding longevity to your firearm. I really like this build. This thing is set beside my bedside for a very long time, and I really do trust this rifle. Regardless if it's a $400 PSA rifle, with the way that I build it, the way that I've set it up, and the amount of rounds I have to this thing without any malfunctions, I would definitely trust my life in like a home defense situation with this firearm. Now, if we're talking about shit hits the fan or something like that, it'd probably be a little bit different. Probably don't want to opt in for a 10.5-inch gun, and probably want something that's going to have a little bit more longevity barrel-wise if you're putting a lot of rounds down it. But for overall civilian use, personal defense weapon, or whatever the case may be, I think this build is more than capable enough. But that's a lot of talk, and talk is cheap. Ammo is not. So now we're going to get to the shooting. So we're gonna run some drills out here with this thing, test overall capability, performance of this rifle, and really just give our overall thoughts on this build for a cheaper rifle. And we're even gonna compare it to my 11.5-inch SIG MCX on some drills and see, is it really worth it buying the more expensive AR over the cheaper one? So without further ado, let's get into the shooting. So, all right, we're just gonna start out with a few warm-up drills. I do these in a lot of my videos. The way I like to warm up with a rifle is to take a shot at the gong here. That's about an A-zone head box target. That's about an 8-inch gong. So what we like to do, we run the timer, and we're gonna do 5 rounds, draw to fire on that gong.
The shooter understand the course of fire.
Yes, sir.
Stand by. .35.
All right.
Stand by. Same. Stand by.
1.3?
Yeah, 1.35.
All right.
1.10.
Okay, getting quick.
Stand by. 1.1.
All right. Almost at a second.
Almost.
I would say once you get this drill down and you can do it within a second consistently,
you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good. But you want to get used to that draw to fire, because whenever you're in a sticky situation with your AR, you want to be pretty quick being able to get that on target. And if you can practice hitting a small target like that gong, you shouldn't have any problem hitting a man-sized target.
What do you think you did?
0.9.
Right on the fucking money.
So you got quick reach time. That's a good sign. You want to improve your times each time you go. There's no reason to be super fast with this drill when you first start out. You don't need to be Rambo out there. Just get used to the gun and just get a feel for the rifle and the platform that you're shooting. You know, get used to taking that safety off. That's one thing that I really integrate in my training, as you guys can tell, is I don't like to just keep that safety off and pull up. I keep that safety on. That way I can get in the practice and the habit of, if I need to use the firearm, when I come up, bringing that safety off. So now what we're gonna do is I got 5 more rounds, and we're just gonna do consecutive on the gong. So he's gonna give me a timer, and I'm gonna do 5 shots at that gong. Really just getting a feel for the recoil impulse, taking back-to-back shots, and really feeling out that trigger and being patient with the gong, because it does swing. So with that being said, I gotta be patient and ensure my dot stays center on that target.
I think that might have been 6.
6 seconds?
No, 6 shots.
What was the time?
Actually pretty good. 4.85.
Yeah, just staying on top of it. Making sure those shots hit what you're aiming at. Especially, again, I think we're probably at about 12-ish yards or so right here, aiming at a head box. So for CQB, you know, if you can do that in a second, then you're probably ahead of most civilians out there. And we're not trained to go to war out here, guys. I don't claim to be a combat vet. Most of my experience just stems from training over the last few years and kind of just filling out what works best for me. All right, so after you get pretty proficient in those drills, I would say those are really important, just overall fundamentals before you run any other drills. Then we can move on to some more complex drills. First, we're gonna start out with a build drill, which is very similar to your 5 consecutive shots on the A-zone, but now we're at 7 yards and we're going to take 5 shots center mass on the target here. Now, the reason why you want to train at different distances is so that way you can learn your holdovers, especially with a riser on your rifle. You're going to have significant height over bore at this distance. So you want to just learn to aim a little bit higher and learn your holdovers depending on the distance that you're at. If this is your first time shooting a rifle, some of the tips I can give you for a beginner is whenever you are going to go present that rifle, I would say if you do have a hand stop or vertical grip or whatever the case may be, I would just take that, C-clamp the gun, and then push it into your shoulder. Push it into your shoulder and then get into a fighting stance with your feet spread out, and then crouch just a little bit. You don't want to bend your knees a lot, but just a little bit. It will help stabilize you on the firearm. So now that we got all those things in place, let's run the build drill. Time?
2.75.
Okay, not bad. We can definitely speed it up. But again, you don't need to be Speedy Gonzalez when you get out to the range. You don't need to be super quick. You need to be effective.
There is a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Exactly. So here we got our 5 shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. all center mass. This would be KIA. Grouping's not great, but we can definitely tighten it up. So we're gonna run it one more time and see what the results are.
2.65.
All right, a little bit quicker, a little bit left of the target, but still punctured along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know a lot of people hate on PSAs. They say you should never use that for any serious use firearm or anything like that. I would agree for like military applications. This is not a combat ready weapon. Again, you can make upgrades. That's a great thing about an AR-15. You can kind of build it into whatever you want, swap out the barrel, and then does upper and lower receiver really matter that much? Probably not. I don't really see any issues even in some of the really cheap ARs where they're upper and lower. But for something like home defense, a mil-spec rifle is probably gonna serve you well for something like home defense. I mean, the big thing about mil-spec rifles is, yes, a lot of times they're overgassed. Yes, a lot of times they aren't the most comfortable thing to shoot, but most mil-spec rifles, even on the cheaper end of things, are made to work. And that's why a lot of them are overgassed, is because they're made to just run. Again, I have thousands of rounds to this thing. I don't think we've ever had a malfunction out of it, if I'm not mistaken. Not that I can remember.
I don't think we've had, no.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a $500 AR-15. Yes, most of its life it's had upgraded parts in it, but that's the great thing, again, about ARs. I could buy this cheap AR and turn it into something much more capable, which I'm sure is what a lot of you guys are gonna do 6 months down the road when you realize you were fear-mongered by the media and you went out and panic bought your AR-15. You're probably gonna wanna play with it a little bit in about 6 months to a year. So when you do, you can reference this video and set it up to have some fun with it on the range. This is the first time we're actually running this gun suppressed, and it's running pretty good. This gun with this buffer system in it, this armor spec buffer, a little bit of a heavier buffer weight in here, it shoots very, very soft. So I really like it. So once you got your build drill down, you got used to put multiple shots on target as quickly as possible, tightened up your groupings on the paper. Now we're going to move to a Mozambique. 2 to the body and 1 to the head. We're at about 10 yards here.
2.68.
All right. Again, I'm aiming here, but because of height of the bore, we're a little bit low. That's normal. You gotta kind of train for that if you need to adjust your point of aim. Here, it would still been more than effective, so it doesn't really matter much. And then our headshot right there.
Right in the teeth.
Right in the teeth. However, I think I can get just a little bit quicker. So we're gonna run one more with this, and then I think I'm going to grab my MCX and see just kind of how it compares on a build drill and a Mozambique to the $400 upgraded PSA rifle.
A little faster, 2.25.
Okay. Right around 2 seconds. Okay, so we got 2 here, and then we got our headshot right there, almost center of the head. So not bad. That would be a target that is KIA. So as far as this setup for CQB, testing on a build drill in a Mozambique, I really do like this setup. Riser definitely helps. Don't really care what anybody else says, going based off experience. It's really crazy to me that some of these people will comment on risers online yet not have any risers on their firearm whatsoever. Like, why are you gonna hate on something you've never tried to use? Because in my experience, the riser definitely helps ADS time. Like getting on target real quickly, running these like close quarters drills where you're really trying to focus on time. You know, like you come up, it's right there.
Yep, it's already at your eye.
Yeah, with a standard height optic, you really have to, you have to get your head on the gun. That's an extra half a second there.
Yep. So
if you're really going for cutting down times, I mean, these seem to really help me out. Now we've got a much, much more expensive build. This is my 11.5 inch SIG MCX Virtus build. It's a SIG MCX Virtus upper with a Aero Precision lower. Super nice gun. However, what I'm just gonna say before I even shoot it is, believe it or not, I've had less malfunctions out of that PSA 10.5 inch than I have out of this $2,000+ MCX Virtus. And a lot of that stems from the complexity of the system. That's just a basic mil-spec AR. Sure, it's got upgraded parts in it, but you know, they're within spec, and that's just gonna run. There's no adjustable gas. It's overgassed, yes, but it's overgassed and made to run. This, on the other hand, has an adjustable gas system where if you're running a different type of ammunition or you're running suppressor versus non-suppressed, there's different settings. That way the gun operates a little bit differently, and if it's not tuned properly, then it can induce malfunctions, which I've had before on this firearm a few times. So that's all I'm going to say. It's not necessarily the gun's fault, but it's really just the fact that it's a much more complex system. But these things run so good suppressed. I love the MCX, so I don't care. Let's see if the money makes me quicker or more precise. All right, build drill.
.86.
It was faster.
Yeah.
Was faster. But was it more accurate? Probably not. I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, effective, faster. Yeah, it did seem a little bit faster.
Slightly, not too much.
That's what I like about these piston-driven guns, though. These piston-driven guns, in my opinion, have a much better recoil impulse, and you can shoot them a little bit faster. You know, like, I mean, that's just been my experience. It seems like you can keep them on target a little bit easier than some of the direct impingement. They have like less like front end rise, and I'm guessing that's because all the weight shifted towards your front.
It allows you faster follow-up shots.
Yeah, and this one also doesn't have a buffer, so when the bolt comes back, you don't get a lot in your shoulder. So, and not that you do with a regular AR-15, but again, it's just the differences between the two platforms. So 1.8 versus the other one was like 2.2, 2.3 at the fastest.
2.25.
Yeah. So, I mean, half a second. This is over $2,000. This build right here is well over $2,000. That one right there, I mean, your base gun's like $400. You want to include all the upgrades that I have in it, maybe around $800-900, if that. I mean, versus over $2,000, is it half a second? My experience for civilian use, for people who are going out to the range or want to protect their home, these mil-spec rifles are usually more than good enough, and you're not going to be able to outshoot the rifle majority of the time. Most of you guys just aren't that good. So when this whole debate comes up about barrels and how accurate they are at, you know, 500 plus yards or so, for most people that stuff's just not going to matter. They're shooting within 100 yards most of the lifespan of that rifle, and I don't even know if most people would put over 10,000 rounds through it. So just keep that in mind when you're purchasing. Don't get too caught up in the gun tube slop of marketing and this is what you need, and you need this $2,000-3,000 rifle, because I see it a lot, and it's just not true for most of you guys out there. Mozambique, 2 to the body, 1 to the head.
2.3.
Okay. Around the same time, I pulled that shot there, we still hit him in the jaw. And then we got our 2 shots here. Again, aim in center, high over bore, where it's zeroed. We're gonna shoot a little bit low. You said 2.3. 2.3. I think it's around the same time I shot with that one. So yeah. As far as like you're choosing a rifle for home defense, take in consideration that if you do have to use it and you use it successfully, they're gonna take this gun from you. So if you use a $2,000 rifle, you're gonna be out $2,000.
I'm gonna cry when they take my $2,000 versus my $800-900 AR.
You're definitely gonna go down the road of depression. I would if somebody took my MCX, that's for sure. Yeah, but now if you lose the PSA, $400, you save up for a few weeks, you buy another one.
Not too mad about it.
Yeah, and is it gonna affect your performance drastically for most civilian situations where you have to use a rifle? Probably not.
No.
So let's get back to shooting the PSA a little bit. We're gonna run some more drills with her. I think we're going to move on to some movement stuff and then maybe some reloads. All right, guys, so like I said, we're gonna be running a movement drill at 3 different distances. This is really just to ensure, you know, obviously you can be as good as you want to up close, but if you step back to a realistic distance of 25 yards or so, or 50 yards, and you can't hit what you're aiming at, it's gonna be a problem. So we're actually gonna be doing a movement drill where we start here, super close, about 10 yards or so from the target. I'm gonna take 2 shots at the paper target, then I'm gonna run back to 25, take 1 shot at each target down here, so both the steel targets and the paper, and then I'm gonna go back to 50 and take 2 shots here at this grizzly. So
stand by. 24.63.
Okay, not bad. All hits. At least, I think, until we check the paper.
Paper target.
Yeah.
So far, steel, good. Paper, we don't know.
It's been a while since I ran this gun, but I really, really like this build. Upgrade that buffer and tune it, especially if you're running it suppressed. You'll get such a softer shooting firearm. Just counting our hits here. We got 1, 2, 3. So we're a little bit low, but I'm sure even hitting this part of this dude's body, that probably hurt like hell. Let's run one more movement drill and then we'll run a reload drill.
Okay.
Because when you get really good at just manipulating your firearm, then you can start practicing your reloads. And I think that's probably the thing that's going to take you the most time to get good at, because doing a quick reload is not as easy as some of these people on YouTube make it seem. And I'm going to start this drill with the rifle slung, so I'll have to get the rifle up and on target.
How do you think you did before you look at the paper?
19 seconds.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How am I always on the money?
Dude, I don't know.
I got the timer in my head.
I'm gonna get you a lottery ticket. Maybe we'll win something.
Yeah, maybe. Looking at the target here, I got one right there, one, and it looks like one right there. More than good enough, and all the other ones are hits. So just integrating that a little bit into the training, having the rifle slung over, then having to bring it to present it, and still being on point. And that's not bad. 50 yards, that size of a target, that quick. I would say I'm pretty happy with my performance today with this rifle. So now we're going to do some reload drills. Also something you should be pretty proficient in eventually with your AR platform. And the only way you're going to get proficient with it is practicing. Now, what I will say is dry fire helps a lot, guys. If you just got a new rifle, new handgun, whatever the case may be, make sure you're dry firing, because when I first started training on rifles, I did a lot of dry firing, and that's what helped me get good with reloads. However, over the years, I haven't done it as much, and now I'm really rough with my reloads on my AR. So this is kind of my Achilles heel, so let's see how well I can do.
Stand by. .65.
All right.
Faster, 7.21.
Okay, I didn't expect that to be faster. Plus we knocked the gong. So,
Undone.
Yeah, that second one barely hit it, but I did hit it. Okay, all right, cool. Well, there's the reload drills. We got about 7 seconds, definitely not fast. Again, I said this is my Achilles heel, but the only thing that's gonna make me faster is training, practicing. So overall, guys, just to close this one out, I think the PSA performed very, very well out here. Again, am I going to war with this rifle? No. But for civilian use and things like that, I think generally it's a good platform to start out on. No, it's not a Daniel Defense. No, it's not an H&K. It's not any of the high-end fancy stuff, but the PSA rifles generally work, and they have a really good reputation. I know a lot of people who have PSA rifles, PSA uppers, lowers, and for the most part, it's always a very positive experience with their products. And one of the number one things I can say about PSA, personally, from having to deal with them, is that their customer service is awesome. And some of these cheaper AR-15 manufacturers, I'm not gonna say any names, but you can probably guess who I'm talking about. Their customer service is basically non-existent. They're not very good, and warranting your firearm or anything like that, if you do receive it with a problem, is just a lot harder to get taken care of. But that's the thing that rocks about PSA. Pretty much any cheap AR-15 you're gonna buy, there's a probability that there may be a QC issue or something like that, but PSA is going to take care of you. Their warranty is really good, and their customer care team is really, really great. And I know that from personal experience. I'm not getting paid by PSA or anything like that, so I'm not just saying that. My personal experience with PSA is pretty much a no questions asked, warranty policy, and they've warranted the things that I've had issues with. I've never had an issue with the AR-15. However, I did have their AKV back in the day. My extractor broke and I had to call in and get that serviced. So with that being said, guys, if you guys are new to firearms, you just bought your first AR-15 and it's a Palmetto State Armory or Radical Firearms or something like that, do not be discouraged with it. These platforms are a very good entry point into the AR-15 space, and AR-15s are like Legos. You can literally build them into whatever you want, and you can definitely build your PSA, Radical Firearms, or whatever you have into a much more capable rifle. Again, there's a lot of gun slop online telling you need to buy a Daniel fence, telling you need a BCM, telling you need these things. If you can afford it and that's what you want, I'm not telling you not to go for it. I'm not even saying that they're not worth it. I own 2 MCXs. So I really like my premium stuff too, but I can acknowledge that if you're just looking for something that works and you're looking to get into it and you are looking to just get your hands on an AR-15 just in case shit hits the fan, these are not a bad place to start. Most civilians, most of the time, are not shooting past 100 yards, and these are more than acceptable enough for real world performance within 100 yards. We didn't have any malfunctions to it today, and again, I have thousands of rounds to this gun, and I don't think I've had a single malfunction with it. All I did was upgrade a few parts in it. You're gonna be spending a couple $100s to upgrade the few parts I have, but you'll have a much more shootable gun and something that has a little bit more longevity in it. Budget doesn't always mean trash, it doesn't always mean cheap, and there are a lot of budget options out there that work. The Streamlight's proven, the SIG Romeo 5's proven, the Somo gears hold up very well for the most part, and overall, for most people, this is going to be more than enough to get you through most situations that a civilian would need an AR-15 for. So with that being said, guys, if you do want to check out any of the parts on this gun or any of that stuff, we will put links in the pinned comment below, so please check that out if you're interested in any of the items I have here, and let me know what you think of our budget build PSA rifle. Guys, that's pretty much it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed us shooting the PSA budget build. If you want to see more videos like this, please like this video, comment below, and subscribe to the channel, because YouTube hates gun content and we need your help to stay in the algorithm. So that's it for this week's video, guys, and I will see you guys next time, and I'm out. Peace.